Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with politics tonight. Tonight we focus on new electricity tariff and matters arising with economist and founder CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf. All right, Dr. Yusuf, now what do you think can be done to ensure stable supply in the country?
To ensure what?
Stable supply in the country.
Stable supply of electricity?
Yes, yes.
Well, what needs to be done is part of the policies that have been announced. President Tinubu, I think, or maybe President Bola has signed the law enabling other providers to come into the space. Because what we need more of in the electricity space is more investment. We are not expecting that investment to come so much from the government, although government can facilitate, again, because of the nature of the service that we are talking about. Electricity, yes, can be seen as a pure commercial product, but it also has a big social dimension because of the effect it has on the welfare of the citizens, just like food, just like education, just like health. Electricity is key. So government has to take a lot of interest in supporting even the investors that are in that space for the benefit and welfare of the people. So we already have a policy environment that encourages a lot more investment into the space. That is licensing more people, promoting these off-grid solutions, embedded power supply, and so on and so forth. That's a welcome development. So we need to put in place an appropriate framework to allow for a quick takeoff, of this policy and its implementation. And whatever incentives we need to give for those who will be investing, we have to put those incentives on the table. We should be able to give fiscal incentives. That, okay, if we are investing in power sector, we are waiving all our import duty for you. We are waiving VAT. We are waiving all charges to encourage more investors in that sector. We can also do the same thing for renewables. Not everybody wants to be connected to the grid. Some people just want to be on their own. We already seen a bit of that even within the country. Where people invest in solar panels and all these renewable energy things, and they're on their own. But these things are still very expensive. So the government can come up with a policy, again, fiscal policy, to waive all import duties and taxes on renewable energy equipment. So that as an individual or as a village community or whatever, you can decide to invest in renewable and you stay completely off the trouble of generators and all these other discos or whatever it is, so that you are just on your own.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, just like you pointed out, a lot of people have also suggested renewable energy option. But how do we ensure adequate penetration with this if eventually adopted in the country?
So the way to encourage adequate penetration is to make it affordable. Right now, these things are very expensive. The solar panels, the inverters, and all the batteries, and all of those things are expensive. We can make it cheaper. Yes, you have the exchange rate, which is already depreciated. But we can reduce the import duty. We can even eliminate the duty completely. Make it zero duty, zero VAT. That is what is done in many other advanced economies. In fact, in the advanced economy, they subsidize the purchase of renewable energy equipment and apparatus. They are subsidized so that more people can make use of those channels of power solution. That is what we should be doing here. If we do that, then we make, it's very scalable. You can have it at individual level, you can have it at community level, you can have it at company level. So these are the ways to make it affordable. It's about pricing, it's about affordability. The more we make it affordable, the more we increase the penetration and the acceptability and use of these renewable energy solutions.
All right, so let's talk about the new electricity law, which empowers states to generate their own power. How feasible is this for most states?
No, it's very feasible. It's very feasible because what I expect to see is a public-private partnership framework.
Okay.
I'm not expecting that the states, not all of them have the resources to go and begin to generate power and distribute power. Even if they have the resources, they don't have the skill. They don't have the manpower and all of that to do it. And we all know the story of public enterprises. You put it in the hand of the ministries and all of that to go and do it, you are not likely to get any results. You are likely to see more of inefficiency and all of that. The system will not be professionally driven. So what I expect to see at the subnational level is more of public-private partnership. So that private sector expertise, private sector capital can be brought into that space to be able to generate electricity at the subnational level. So that, for me, is the way to go. I don't expect the states to be directly now be using their resources, even if they are using their resources. I think they should just facilitate the provision of that. Because the electricity market is a very huge market. So it presents a whole lot of opportunities. And just as I said, we also should provide fiscal incentives for investors who are willing to come into that space. The National Economic Council should take part of these things on board as part of what we should be advocating for at the level of the National Economic Council to make it easier for them to be able to attract investors in power to their states. That should be one of the major things they should be doing. They should not just be concentrating on revenue allocation, excess crude, oil theft and all of that. They should also be looking at policies that will enable the subnationals to do a lot more in terms of provision of energy, in terms of provision of an enabling environment for investors in their various states.
All right. So, I mean, from your own point of view, how long do you think it will take before we start seeing the impact of the new electricity law on stable power in the country?
Well, it should not take that long. Of course, because of the capital requirement, you may be looking at maybe a year or two, because you need to mobilize investors, you need to do all of that. But what I do know is that if the government supports this initiative with the right kind of incentives, then we get results within a year or two. But in the meantime, we need to ensure that whatever we can do to improve electricity supply, currently we should do. We had the Siemens initiative of the past administration. We need to know where we stand on that. A lot of monies have been committed, and I also have some information that even some of the equipment that Siemens imported are lying there at the ports. Maybe for bureaucratic reasons or whatever. Because some significant investment was made under the Presidential Power Initiative. Where are we? What can we do? Pending the time we begin to get results from this new initiative. So we need to also make the current system work better, more efficiently. The initiatives that was done under the power sector, Presidential Power Sector Initiative, let us also see it to conclusion. Let's drive it through until we begin to see results from these new reforms that are in place.
All right, so, I mean, with all hopes high, when states eventually begin to generate their own power, how confident are you that this will lead to stable and affordable power in the country?
Of course it will be. It will be, because what we need in the power situation is decentralization. The current structure is over-centralized. Can you have a situation where 200 million people are dependent on a single national grid? It's not sustainable. You need to decentralize it. Now we are in Lagos, we told us maybe there's a Greek collapse or something happened in Kanji or in Osogbo, then the whole nation will be in darkness. Or you have one remote village somewhere, you begin to connect cables over several kilometers to that village. These things are not efficient. We should have solutions that can serve communities based on their sizes. So that we decentralize, and through decentralization and more investment, we have better power supply, which may even be, of course, less expensive than what we have now. So for me, I think it will ensure better and more stable electricity situation.
All right. So the president attended the new Global Financial Pact in Paris. How will you describe the president's outing?
Well, the outing of the president, I think, is a very good one. That was his first outing as president of the country. And it's good that it's an opportunity to meet with major players in the global financial system, opportunity to interact with investors. For me, I think it is very good because there are two major components of that trip. There's a component that has to do with the climate change finance, which the whole summit was all about. How we can get the advanced economies to support financing of climate change investments, which is very important. All the expectations that the developing countries have as to the contribution of the developed countries to climate finance has not actually materialized. In previous summits, I think COP 2026 or so, there have been agreements that $100 billion will be made available by the developed countries annually to support the challenges of climate change. And just as everyone knows, the biggest emissions are coming from the developing countries. The biggest victims are the underdeveloped or underdeveloped countries. The biggest emissions are coming from the developed countries, the advanced economy, because they are the most industrialized. They are generating, more of this greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So they are doing a lot more damage to this issue of climate change. So, but unfortunately, we haven't seen very impressive traction in terms of living up to their climate finance commitments. Only very few countries have demonstrated excellent commitments. We have France, we have Japan, and we have Germany. Those are the ones that have shown some significant level of commitment to the promise they made about supporting the climate change finance. So the whole idea is to prevail on other countries. Unfortunately, even the US was one of those that have shown the least commitment to the climate finance. It was an opportunity to reiterate the need for the advanced economies to do more in the area of climate finance, to support the developing countries to mitigate the challenges of climate change. I mean, we know how devastating the climate change problem has been for many of the developing countries. Properties have been lost, lives have been lost, infrastructures have been destroyed, livelihoods have been destroyed. So many havoc has been done. So that is one thing that the summit was to achieve, and I'm sure our president also lent his voice to the fact that we need to see a lot more justice as far as the climate change issue is concerned. The second leg of the outcome is about getting investors to invest in Nigeria. At least in a way, marketing the reforms that the administration has undertaken. I'm talking of this foreign exchange reform in the oil and gas sector, and other reforms. And these reforms were properly amplified by President Tinubu at that summit. He had a lot of bilateral engagements to sell these ideas, and I'm sure that from the reports we are getting, the international finance community are very happy about the reforms, and investors are also happy about it. So it is for us to ensure that we sustain these reforms, we sustain the momentum so that we can attract more investment, we can inspire a lot more confidence, not just from foreign investors, even from domestic investors.
Absolutely.
Because the domestic investors are as important as foreign investors. So when we talk about all these incentives as an investors, we should also remember that. So I think the reforms, something that are well received by the international community, and the president assured them that these things will be sustained. And of course, I'm expecting that the impact of this will be positive. The World Bank also made promises about, suspending the repayment of loans to developing countries, effective from, whatever new loans they get from World Bank. Of course, that is also a welcome development, but some of us felt that some of these global financial institutions could do more than that, because most of the finance that have been put on the table are not grants, they are loans. So they still have to be repaid. That is not the kind of thing, I think they could do more. And many developing countries were also expecting that at that forum, we could get some outcomes in terms of, so that they can give more fiscal space for all these developing countries, especially those that are heavily indebted, to be able to do a lot more, by investing some of their resources in the development of their countries. But again, that did not quite materialize. But it's work in progress. The engagement is continuing, and we hope that as we progress, we get the developed countries to do a lot more in the area of tackling this problem of climate change, especially from the area of climate change finance.
All right, so having outlined the key highlights of President Tinubu's participation at that summit, what benefits do you think Nigeria stands to gain from the summit?
So the key benefits is to attract investment. Because at this time, what we need the most is investment. We need capital to flow into this economy. If you look at the data on capital importation and foreign direct investments, they have practically collapsed over the last 8 years. We haven't been seeing much. I mean, when you have a country as big as this, we had FDI, I think the last figure we had was about $500 million. When a few years ago, we were doing close to $5 billion. The policy environment has not encouraged investors to come. So we need to see a change in that, and that will benefit the economy a lot. Because when you talk about growing the economy, it's essentially about growing your investments, both domestic and foreign. And when you talk about challenges in your foreign exchange environment, it's also about attracting more foreign capital. The more foreign capital we're able to attract, the better for our reserves, the better for our exchange rate. And you know what that means for the average Nigerian, for the average businesses. If you have a much better foreign exchange environment, it helps to stabilize the macroeconomic environment. And it's very positive for businesses, it's very positive for job creation. It's positive for growth of investment. So those are the kind of positive outcomes that we expect, from that kind of engagement.
All right, so let's talk about foreign exchange. I know you tried to talk about this earlier, but for clearer understanding, what impact of the unification of exchange windows are we beginning to see in the country?
Well, the impact, first of all, there is a revenue effect. Because from the unification, I expect to see a additional gain into our revenue and to our federation accounts of close to 3 to 4 trillion, which we have been losing to all these rent seekers and those who are benefiting from the arbitrage. So when you have that kind of additional revenue into your federation accounts, it will benefit the federal government, it will benefit the state governments, it will also benefit the local governments. Because these are the people who share the federation account revenue. But again, it's one thing to have the revenue, it's another thing to use the revenues judiciously, So again, as citizens, we have a responsibility to hold our governments to account so that they are accountable for the resources they get. The second benefit that we expect, which may not be manifesting immediately, is the fact that we are likely to see more foreign exchange inflows into the economy. So far, in the last few weeks, the bulk of the supply to the foreign exchange market has been from autonomous sources, from private sources.
Dr. Yusuf, are you there? All right, I've been speaking with an economist and founder, CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf. And tonight we're focusing on new electricity tariff and matters arising. Dr. Muda Yusuf, are you there? All right. All right, sadly, we have to, that's a good way to end the show. I mean, for him, it says this is the wrong timing, and we do hope we go from now on. All right, that's all we have on the program for you today. Thank you very much for watching. And but the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke OO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Goodbye.